run up to the budget. Do you accept that this government's mixed messages on tax might have played a role in that? Is this a sensible way of handling market-sensitive information?
Leaks are not acceptable, but people only have to wait a week now until I deliver my budget on Wednesday, the 26th of November. The priorities of that budget will be to tackle the cost of living, to get NHS waiting lists down, and to reduce the national debt. Those are the priorities of the British people, and they'll be my priorities as I go into the budget next week.
Well, our business and economics correspondent, Gurpreet Nolan, has more.
There's quite a lot underneath the surface, and there's a bit of a sting in the tail, actually, especially when it comes to food price inflation, which is relevant because I am in a Tesco in West London. Prices here are considerably higher, the price level, considerably higher than they were a few years ago. We know that food prices in particular, we've been on a big journey with food prices. They rose in the inflationary crisis that we had post-lockdown after the war in Ukraine. And since March, they've been on the up considerably, largely driven by the Chancellor's own policy of national insurance contribution increases. Supermarkets have been passing that on to consumers, and we've had data out today showing that food price inflation was up again by 4.9% in October. That was up from 4.5% the previous month. It actually fell the previous month. So as I said, a bit of a sting in the tail there, and policymakers will be really nervous about food price inflation, actually, because of all the types of inflation, food price inflation, when your grocery shop goes up, is the one that makes you really look around and go, oops, wow, like food prices and inflation in general is going up, the cost of living is going up, I better go to my employer and try and get a pay rise. And policymakers are anxious about that because it can fuel something called a wage price spiral, whereby prices are going up and then you go to your boss and ask for a pay rise and then prices go up even higher. So although the overall data today, headline rate of inflation falling to 3.6%, should give the Bank of England more confidence to cut interest rates next month, particularly as there are other underlying data points here on services inflation, which is a data point the bank looks really closely at. It gives you a sense of how underlying inflation is doing in the economy. That fell faster than expected. So we're anticipating that the bank will cut interest rates next month, but there are still warning signs within this data, particularly around food, that policymakers will have in the back of their mind before making their decision. And of course, all of this has added salience in the run-up to the budget. The Chancellor will be looking to grab on to any good news that she can find. She'll be pointing to falling inflation, but she might have to wait until after the budget for an interest rate cut.
Details there from Gurpreet. Let's return to that breaking news this hour. The Defence Secretary opening his speech a short time ago by saying a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland. Let's bring in our political correspondent, Rob Powell, who was at that speech in Downing Street. Rob, what did you make of what the Defence Secretary had to say?
Yeah, it was a significant announcement at the top and an indication, really, of the new types of threats that the UK is facing. This is the Yantar, a Russian spy ship that at the moment is on the edge of UK waters, but has been, I'm told, going in and out of UK waters over the last 2 weeks. I think what is significant about what John Healey said in terms of this report is that when the spy ship was being shadowed, surveillance planes, a frigate that was around it, the Yantar used a laser and shined the laser at the pilots of the surveillance plane, something the Defence Secretary said was very, very dangerous, clearly, and something he said is the first time that they have known the Yantar to do this. It was earlier this year that they identified the Yantar in an area of sensitive undersea cables, I believe off the south coast of the UK. In that incident, they surfaced a submarine to try and warn it off. But they say this is the first time they have known a Russian vessel of this type using a laser in this way towards UK personnel. And they say that this is not just a sort of standard laser pen type operation. This is something more advanced that was probably used. The planes that were actually watching the Yantar used infrared imagery to essentially look inside the ship to basically make the point that this wasn't just an innocent vessel, as the Russians tend to claim it is when the Yantar gets spotted, that this is something that is in the area of sensitive undersea cables, that was essentially looking at and spying on critical UK infrastructure. It had also been very close to the waters of another European nation as well. In response, they said that the orders of engagement were changed. Essentially, what that means is that it allows ships, planes to get closer, or ships predominantly to get closer, which you can see, I think, from some of the photos that they are going to dish out, if they haven't already, that they're able to get almost within the distance of a football pitch to basically shadow the ship and to try and get it to go away. Also, they talked about the threshold for action being lower as well. And I thought it was interesting when I asked John Healey about what the response would be. He talked about surfacing the submarine last time, but he also said that they'll continue to monitor more closely the activities of the Yantar when it's in our wider waters, and they have military options ready. So clearly, when something like this happens, the UK wants to, as they did last time back in January when this happens, kind of make a fuss about it, if you like, because they want to send the message to Russia that they know exactly what is going on. No doubt we will get a response coming from Moscow in the near future saying that this is all made up and is all innocent. But clearly, John Healey wanting to get that message out there that they know what is going on and they will be prepared to respond if needed.
Rob Powell, live in Downing Street for us. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Images there of the Yantar. This is the Russian spy ship off the coast of Scotland that the Defence Secretary John Healey said is being monitored by both Royal Navy frigate and also those P-8 Poseidon aircraft as well. This is the second deployment so far this year. And John Healey saying that if it was to change its course or change its actions, then military options were available, not elaborating further, but we will have further coverage, developments, reaction, insight and analysis on this story. Plenty more on the Sky News website and the Sky News app. Stay with us in 2 minutes' time.
Breathtaking adventures anywhere. It starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right. On Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience.
Hello, you're watching Sky Today. I'm Gareth Barlow. It's 11 o'clock. These are the headlines. The Defence Secretary reveals UK forces are being deployed to track a Russian spy ship on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland.
My message to Russia and to Putin is this. We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Meanwhile, two NATO members scrambled jets following deadly explosions in western Ukraine as President Zelensky heads for peace talks in Turkey. So food prices keep rising, but inflation falls for the first time in 7 months, a sign it may have peaked ahead of next week's budget. 3 years on, Sky News identifies a new suspect in the case of a father killed by a single punch at a stag do on the Greek island of Zante. Plus, celebrating time for the Tartan Army, Scotland erupts as the men's team makes it to the World Cup for the first time in nearly 3 decades. Very good morning to you. We begin the hour with the breaking news of the morning. The Defence Secretary warning of what he called a new era of threat from Russia. John Healey told reporters at a Downing Street briefing that a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is currently north of Scotland on the edge of UK waters. Mr. Healey said it's the second time this year that the Yantar is deployed to UK waters, and the crew members on the ship had directed lasers at British pilots to distract them. In a moment, we'll get a reaction from our defence and security analyst Michael Clark and our political correspondent Rob Powell in Downing Street. First, more of what Mr. Healey had to say.
As I speak, a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland, having entered the UK's wider waters over the last few weeks. This is a vessel designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. We deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF P-8 planes to monitor and track this vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed lasers at our pilots. That Russian action is deeply dangerous, and this is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed to UK waters. So my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready. And I want to praise the dedication and professionalism of our armed forces. They work 24/7 every day of the year to keep this nation safe. But this is also a stark reminder that we are in a new era of threat. Our world is changing. It is less predictable, it is more dangerous. And in the last year alone, we've seen the Israel-Iran war bring the Middle East close to the very brink. Armed conflict break out between India and Pakistan. Chinese spies targeting our democracy at home. Putin escalates still further his war in Ukraine. And in just this last year, we've also seen Europe's skies plagued by drone disruptions. We've seen Russian incursions into NATO airspace double, and we've seen 90,000 cyber attacks on the UK defence system alone. This is a new era of threat. It demands a new era for defence, an era of hard power, strong allies, and of sure diplomacy.
Let's bring in our defence and security analyst, Professor Michael Clark. Michael, lots of focus all of a sudden on the Yantar. What do we know about it?
Yeah, well, it's been around for about 10 years. I think it was launched in 2014 or 2015. It's been in lots of places. Again, it hovers over cables. It was in Brazil a few years ago. What was it doing? Hovering over cables. The only time I think that it's performed something that wasn't obviously spying is it went to help the Argentinian Navy when they lost a submarine. And I think it was an act of...
Lovely van, mate.
Copycat.
And I just checked out the depth that they are recorded as being able to go to. And it looks as if the submersibles that it can launch will go to about 6,000 meters, 20,000 feet. That's pretty deep. And that means that anywhere on the continental shelf, not in the deep Atlantic, the mid-Atlantic, where the nuclear submarines lurk, as it were, but anywhere around the continental shelf, around our North European waters, means that the submersibles can get down there. And they could be surveying cables and pipelines, or they could be laying charges against cables and pipelines. And there's a difference. I mean, if cables are damaged and destroyed, and that happens quite a lot, actually, by accident as well, they can be replaced.
Anchors being dragged across,
exactly,
for example,
deliberately or not.
Yeah.
And cables do get damaged and destroyed, but there are so many cables that there's usually a way round. It's just a nuisance, but you reroute things. Pipelines are different because pipelines don't often have backup. So if a pipeline is destroyed or damaged, then somebody's got to get down there and repair it with all the damage it does in the meantime. So cables may not be so difficult, but then you can be tapping into cables so that the ability to literally tap the cables and absorb all the traffic, that's a significant intelligence boost in itself. Damage to pipelines is more serious. But the Yantar, it goes with the Russian Northern Fleet. They've got another ship with their Pacific Fleet, and they're reportedly building another one, third one. They don't have many of these ships. They're very, very specialized. And although it doesn't look anything, no great shakes, it is full of very sophisticated equipment. So the Russians only deploy one in the northern waters, one in the Pacific waters, a third one apparently building. Don't know what they'll do with that. But it's a nuisance ship as far as NATO is concerned, and it's tracked pretty consistently wherever it goes.
It's probably got greater capability and reliability than some of the Russian actual naval vessels do. They've
the Kuznetsov. Yeah, I mean the Russian carrier, the Kuznetsov, it always goes with tugs because it breaks down so often, and it leaves plumes of smoke everywhere it goes.
When it goes through the channel, it's kind of
it's a joke.
I mean, it really is a joke. Its capabilities.
I think the Russians have become so embarrassed by the Kuznetsov that they don't actually deploy it. But some of the stuff they do, their Navy, their Northern Fleet, Kuznetsov aside, is not at all bad. They've modernised quite a lot of it.
This is the second time that this has popped up in British waters. It was around earlier in the year, and there are actual images from Daring class Type 45 destroyer there.
Yeah, that's Type 45. Yeah, there it is, Daring class. You can always tell because of the big sort of pyramid on the top. That's where all the radar is. And they're very capable ships. Sadly, we've got 6 of them. We only ever got 3 of them at sea at the moment because of problems with 3 are alongside, as they say. So the best we can do is get 3 and they're heavily in demand in the Mediterranean and the Gulf because they're very capable. But we have 6.
We have 6 of those, and why? Why is the Yantar popping back up again now towards the end of the year? Any speculation?
Well, we don't know what the Russians are thinking, other than that they're seeing how far they can push us, and a lot of these things, like the drone incursions into Polish airspace and drones that close European airports. I think they're trying to make the point to the Europeans that the United States is not really supportive of Europe very much these days in defence terms. You are on your own, and we are capable of bringing pressure to bear. So in a way, partly I think it's an attempt to frighten the Europeans, to keep reminding the Europeans that if you keep on supporting Ukraine, there are things we can do, and the Americans will let us. Whether that's right or not, I think that's part of the message. And I think too, I mean, the Russians are on a long-term project to map and know where all the pipelines and cables are, and to understand what they would do if they wanted to interfere with these things. Because if we get into let's say a militarized crisis with Russia, then it's a fair bet that will be accompanied by quite a lot of cyber attacks, quite a lot of disruption. And we don't really know how bad that disruption could be and how much we've built resilience against it. The government says that they're aware of it, they are building resilience, and they are, but until it's tested, we just don't know. The Russians thought they would do that with Ukraine in 2022, and they failed. They tried a massive cyber attack in February 22 as they invaded Ukraine. It didn't work. And the big companies actually got Ukraine's data out onto the cloud and preserved it. And so it's not automatic that all this would work, but undoubtedly that's part of their planning for conflict.
Interesting, actually. John Healey, the Defence Secretary, is saying there have been 90,000 attempted cyber attacks against UK defence systems in the last year alone. It's indicative of the fact it's not just a physical threat, but there are digital manifestations.
That's the MOD's figure, 90,000 in the last year, which is more than ever before.
Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Michael, good to have you with us. Also with us is our political correspondent, Rob Powell, who was at the briefing with the Defence Secretary. Rob, what was the sense of mood you got from the Defence Secretary? It was a fairly steady performance, but the message was pretty stark.
Yeah, morning, Gareth. I should say at the top, we're waiting for the Prime Minister to leave number 10 to go to Prime Minister's questions any minute now. So if I keep looking over my shoulder, that's why. You're right, John Healey gave a press conference just up the road on number 9 Downing Street in the press briefing room there this morning, ostensibly to talk about new investments, new sites to build munitions, but right at the top of that briefing gave us this news about this Russian spy ship that he...
Make this Christmas a jingle belter. From Aldi's well-nice appetizers to their proper naughty desserts. And some right crackers in between. There's everything you need to make sure your table spread slays. Go all fancy with Aldi, specially selected.
Shadow it to watch what it was doing. The Yantar used a laser and directed it towards the pilots. Now, that is something that sources say is the first time they have known a Russian vessel to do this, to react in this way when UK planes have been sent to monitor it. And they say it's something that is very dangerous. They said also the plane was using infrared photography to essentially look inside the Yantar spy ship, because the reason that gets put out usually by the Russians when the UK flags the activities of the Yantar is that this is a sort of innocent fishing vessel or an innocent vessel. They are saying that, you know, we know what they're up to because we have these photos of what is actually going on inside. They also said that they had changed the orders of engagement, that actually was changed the last time the Yantar surfaced. The Yantar emerged back in January, that allows UK frigates, UK vessels to get closer towards the Russian ship to shadow it. Interestingly as well, John Healey made pretty clear that if the ship didn't change course, that there would be military options ready as well. But I think what the Defence Secretary usually does in these sorts of circumstances, and we saw it in January, is that they try to get in there first to essentially say to the Russian president that they know what is going on and to get in ahead of any excuses that come from there. Other than that, the press conference was all about essentially trying to build up the defence capability and industry within the UK again. He's off to Plymouth later this afternoon to open up a new facility down there. It comes on a fairly awkward day though, because there's a report out from the Defence Select Committee of MPs saying that they don't believe that the UK is able to defend itself. They say a variety of reasons, from a lack of planning, from a lack of capacity in certain areas, to a running down of industry to produce things like arms and equipment that you need in a war. They don't believe that the UK has that capability anymore. John Healey's response was essentially that this was hollowed out under the previous Conservative government, but the Labour at the moment is investing back in defence and is bringing that share of GDP up again. And he was trying to, I think, essentially send a message out before the budget like next week as well, and say, actually, re-energising this industry will create jobs, and that will be good for growth as well.
Rob Howe, live in Downing Street. Good to have you with us. Thank you. As we were hearing from Rob, PMQ is coming up midday. We can expect defence and the Russian threat to come up when Sir Keir Starmer gets his feet in the Commons at noon. Jane Secker will be with you for all of that action in just about 45 minutes' time or so. And, of course, at 1 o'clock, Professor Michael Clarke taking part in that special Q&A happening live this afternoon. If you want to submit your questions, scan the QR code on your screen right now to do so. Let's stick with the Russian threat for a few moments, shall we? Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says 9 people have been killed and dozens hurt in a Russian attack on the western city of Ternopil overnight. Another 40 injured in Kharkiv, according to the regional governor. Firefighters attempting to put out that blaze. Ukraine says Russia launched 470 strike drones, 48 missiles, hitting residential buildings, including a 9-story block of flats, and that people remain trapped under the rubble. Mr. Zelensky in the Turkish capital Ankara today for talks with the country's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. China's hit back at accusations.
Deny this. But look, I think it's complicated given how many accusations. Deny this. But look, I think it's complicated given how many accusations like this there have been in recent months. And I put that exact point to Mao Ning, who is the spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, just an hour or so ago. Have a listen to what she said. MI5 issued an official warning to British politicians about 2 LinkedIn accounts that it said were posing as headhunters, but were in fact operating on behalf of the Chinese Ministry of State Security. It's just the latest in a real string of similar accusations about alleged Chinese spying in the UK. Given that it's pretty widely acknowledged that all countries spy on each other, and given the sheer regularity of these type of accusations recently, Is it not quite far-fetched and perhaps even more damaging to bilateral relations between China and the UK for China to continue to maintain that the UK are just making it all up? Thank you.
China has repeatedly made clear its solemn position on this matter. We firmly oppose such unfounded allegations and the exaggerated portrayal and sensationalism.
It should cost $1 billion to look that good. You can be both, meet in the middle, dance all night. Take it all off, it's pure. It should cost $1 billion to look this good. Check my technique. All the pretty boys to the floor.
$1 million gold for her. 1 million fragrances by Rabanne.
Accusations like this when they come around, but it is of course a pretty common understanding that China has a very sophisticated surveillance operation. Just here as journalists in Beijing, it is not unnormal to hear of diplomats and former diplomats, people who used to work here who have been approached by the Ministry of State Security. We hear about that all the time, actually. So look, there's very likely that there might be some potential truth to these types of allegations. However, I think the significance really in this incident is about the thorniness that it reintroduces to the British-Chinese diplomatic relationship. There has been quite a few of these accusations in recent months, not least a big case last month that actually collapsed because the British government wouldn't supply sort of written evidence to say that China was officially an enemy or officially a threat to national security. And that was a big embarrassment and lots of criticism to the government about the fact that they were unwilling to take that step in order to sort of to pursue those prosecutions. So perhaps a better attempt from the British government to look strong on the China issue ahead of other big decisions coming up, such as a very controversial new embassy for China in London, decision on that expected in the next few weeks. But look, the Chinese don't take enormously kindly to these type of public accusations, and they don't like their bilateral relations to be played out in very public ways. So I think it does potentially bode for a thorny few months.
UK inflation has eased slightly, falling for the first time in 7 months. It's a move that's leaving economists confident that we passed the peak in prices. Latest data from the Office for National Statistics show the figure fell to 3.6% in October, which was what experts had been predicting. That's down from 3.8%, which...
If I could extract it from the pot, I'd happily serve it at a dinner party.
The Sky News investigation has identified a new suspect in the case of Matt Jeffrey, a married father of one who was killed by a single punch while away on a stag do in Zante. 2 men were arrested and convicted over the 35-year-old's death on the Greek island in 2019, but now, 6 years on, we've identified another man who has potentially evaded justice for years. Our home editor, Jason Farrell, has the story.
This is seconds before a fatal punch, caught on camera. The victim, 35-year-old Matt Jeffrey, an AA man, husband, father. His family have waited 6 years for justice.
I know a lot of people say it, you know, when people die, how amazing people were, but he genuinely was like the most amazing human being. He really was, you know, 1 in a million.
It happened in May 2019 on a nightclub strip on the party island of Zakynthos, known as Zante. Matt was here on a stag do with his friends from Somerset. He wasn't initially involved when a fight broke out in a club called Sizzle, all captured on CCTV. Friends on the stag talked me through it. Yeah, that's you in the...
I'm here in the white sleeveless vest.
Yeah.
I then see this guy jump over my shoulder who's working behind the bar, so I follow him in to try and mediate and to pull people apart.
Matt's group leaves quickly, but the others, a group from Essex, seen with their shirts off, follow them out. We've obtained video footage from someone who was outside the club. The footage, which was filmed exactly at this spot, we're not showing in full at the request of Matt Jeffrey's family. But in it, he's clearly stood with his arms open wide, not posing a threat. When he is slapped in the side of the head by someone standing here, and then almost immediately punched in the face, falling back. And then the two assailants walk off at first and then run off up the street.
I didn't see the punch. I saw as Matt hit the deck. The sound that I heard will never leave me.
Matt was airlifted to hospital but died of multiple head injuries.
You don't realise how fragile life is until something like this happens. Like, 1 minute someone's there, next minute they're gone, and it only takes one punch.
Two men, Luke Brownston and Adam O'Brien, were charged, released on bail, and 4 years later convicted of manslaughter and given 12 and 10-year sentences. But they didn't turn up to court in Patras on the Greek mainland. Only after we began investigating 6 years after the attack did Greek police issue extradition papers for one of the men, Luke Brownston, the man who threw the fatal punch. He was then arrested in Essex. But what of Adam O'Brien? Well, he had claimed in a court statement that he didn't hit Mr. Jeffrey. It was another man in his group called William Locke. We've seen a photo in Sizzle, date stamped on the night of the attack. In it, Adam O'Brien is wearing dark shorts, even though the police identify him as this man wearing white shorts. The shot inside Sizzle shows William Locke wearing white shorts. And there's another photo of him from the trip wearing them again. There's a thin black piping down the side. They look like the ones worn by the assailant in the video. Extradition lawyer Karen Todner now represents Adam O'Brien.
I think the main failing was that the Greek police failed to take witness statements from any of the group. By not taking those witness statements, they allowed William Locke to leave, and the fact is they got the wrong guy.
But this is Mr. Locke, according to witness statements from 4 of the Essex group gathered by Karen Todner. And there's a facial mapping expert report, where the man in the video is called Person Y and compared to photos of Mr. Locke. It finds skin tone, build, forehead height and slope all similar. Brow ridge, eyebrows, nose root, similar. It says, I conclude there is strong support to the contention that Person Y and Mr. Locke are the same person. But with O'Brien, he says there is strong support that Person Y and Mr. O'Brien are not the same person. This evidence was rejected on appeal last December, although Adam O'Brien's sentence was downgraded, and it does raise questions for the family.
We wouldn't want an innocent person to go to prison for a crime they haven't done. And we can only hope that if they've got the ability to clear his name, then they can get the correct person convicted for assisting in this crime.
William Locke lives in Colchester and has never been questioned about the attack. We've come to Colchester really just to give this to William Locke and put to him these allegations that he is this man. I want to ask you about the death of Matt Jeffrey. Were you involved in the fatal assault of Matt Jeffrey, Mr. Locke? Can I give you this? Mr. Locke, can I give you this? Is that you? Is that you? Were you involved in the assault of Matt Jeffrey? Mr. Locke, can you take this? We've approached police in Zante with our evidence and had no response. Luke Brownston has not responded and awaits extradition proceedings. Can I give you this? And O'Brien hasn't spoken to us, but his parents, in a statement, insisted he was wrongly convicted while expressing sympathy to the Jeffrey family.
Everyone needed a Matt Jeffrey because he was just so kind. He was hardworking. He loved me and the girls, his family, his friends.
We have pictures in our houses. We have pictures in our head, of him, fun-loving Matt, and his smile. Which brings us back to how badly he's missed. For something so unnecessary.
Jason Farrell, Sky News.
Let's just show you some live images, or latest images, in fact, from Downing Street, shall we? This is the Prime Minister heading to PMQs.
Are you flip-flopping over the budget, Prime Minister? Are your budget U-turns bad for Britain? Do you back your Chancellor to get it right, Prime Minister? Was your manifesto a lie, Prime Minister?
There we are, the Prime Minister heading off to PMQs, taking place in 30 minutes' time. All the action here on Sky News with Jane Secker at the top of the hour. That statement by the Defence Secretary John Healey as well regarding that Russian spy ship, surely likely to come up too. Further details, we'll bring them to you here on Sky News. Still to come after the break in a couple of moments. We'll get the latest on the inflation figures that were released this morning for the UK. Down a touch. What does it mean for you and your pocket? to bring you more now on news that UK inflation's eased slightly, falling for the first time in 7 months, in a move that's leaving economists feeling confident that we've passed the peak in prices. Joining us now, Linda Yu, Fellow in Economics at Oxford University, Adjunct Professor at the London Business School as well, joining us from Central London. Good to have you with us. Your reaction to kind of the myriad of price rises that have brought us to 3.6%?
The biggest driver is actually a year-on-year reduction in the, bear with me, every October Ofgem sets the amount, the energy costs per household. So last October, it was around 9.4%. But currently, it's dropped to about 2.2%. So the decline in inflation to 3.6% is because inflation is a year-on-year measure, and the energy price cap has dropped a lot because globally energy prices have come down. So the ONS, the Stats Authority, says that's actually the biggest reason why it's actually come in lower than what markets had expected, and also actually lower than what the Bank of England has expected. And two other data points that suggest that prices are beginning to soften is that core inflation, so stripping out what I just said about energy and also food, that's also dropped. And services inflation, which is something the Bank of England watches very closely, that's also trending downwards.
The Bank of England, you mentioned their target is 2%. We're, above that, and we've been above that for a long time. But when do we think it might reach that target level?
The current forecast is the bank thinks will reach that level in 2027. So that is quite a long way from now. It's actually one of the reasons why interest rates continue to be around 4%, which is restrictive and rather high. So the fact that we have consistently price pressures, largely coming from energy, but also from imported prices, is a challenge, particularly for the Bank of England, because the economy is weakening. So if you have high price pressures, but the economy is weakening, the bank always focuses on inflation, as is their mandate. But I think a lot of people would think, oh, gosh, we're nowhere near the 2% target and rates are still fairly high. Hopefully that will change soon. And the thing to watch for there is if GDP, national output, continues to be weaker than expected, which is what the latest figures show, the bank expected us to grow by around 0.3% in the third quarter this year. We actually only grew by 0.1%, and September actually showed the economy contracting. As the economy slows, price pressures should also slow, and that should move us towards moving away from 4% interest rates into rate cuts. But you know what I'm going to say next, which is there's a budget coming up, and that's going to be a factor.
And what will the budget mean? In two terms here. Firstly, this figure kind of playing into the budget, and then also the potential of the budget to affect that figure going forwards as well.
Yeah, so the main thing the Bank of England watches for, and probably why they held rates earlier this month, is because the budget coming up on the 26th, if current spending is fueled by borrowing, and that is not what the fiscal rules, what the Chancellor has said she would do, but if it was, then that's inflationary, because when governments borrow to spend, it's more money chasing to support public services, and normally we view that as inflationary. So the bank wants to wait and see. The fiscal rules are adhered to. Tax increases to pay for current spending and borrowing only to invest. It won't be inflationary, but if you raise taxes, that dampens the economy. And if the economy slows and price pressures normally follow and begin to slow, that paves the way for a rate cut in December. And right now, financial markets think there's an 85% chance of a rate cut to 3.75%. And by the way, 85% sounds incredibly precise. I'm just going to say most markets expect there will be a rate cut if the fiscal rules are adhered to in the budget.
3.6% inflation at the moment in the UK. How do we compare to comparable countries?
So we are much higher than continental Europe. So the European Central Bank, their forecast for inflation is that it actually could drop in the countries that use a single currency to less than 2%. Correspondingly, the interest rate in the euro area is 2%, which they view as roughly neutral, as in not restrictive and not stimulating economic activity. Their challenge is actually more on the growth side. So there is a chance that rates could come down there to support growth. And that's actually something we should bear in mind here as well, which is if growth continues to slow and unemployment continues to inch up, because that is what we're currently seeing, unemployment, over 5% or so is likely to stay at that level for the next, coming period. That actually suggests rates should come down more quickly because lower rates make it more affordable for households to repay their debts, their mortgages, if it's linked to interest rates, and cheaper for businesses to borrow. So interest rates would actually stimulate the economy and support it. So I would say compared to the continent, we have structurally higher inflation for a number of reasons, including the amount of things we import. Compared to the United States, we're probably about the same. Our rates actually are about the same, but the US inflation drivers are actually US tariffs, which are being passed through into higher consumer prices. So the factors are slightly different. So I guess in terms of the PAC, we are expected to be one of the best growing economies in the G7, despite the price pressures. But that's mostly because growth seems to be struggling. Advanced economies all seem to be struggling with growth at the moment.
Linda, really good to have you with us. Appreciate you sharing your time. Thank you so much. It's 20 to 12. You're watching Sky News. Now then, we are sorry for what happened and lessons must be learned. The message from a council leader today after Sky News investigated the failings that occurred before the death of a young woman who'd been under his organisation's care. Nanita was just 18 when she took her own life after being let down by everyone who was supposed to look after her, particularly her corporate parent, Barnet Council. Well, a warning, this report from Sky's Nick Martin does contain references to suicide.
In December 2023, 18-year-old Nanita Grabowska took her own life. She was in the care of Barnet Council, her corporate parent. A coroner found that failings in her care contributed to her death. Now the council's leader has agreed to answer questions about the case, and another 2 care leavers who had submerged died within a year of Nanita. Is the council sorry for failing Nanita in such a catastrophic way?
I think with any tragedy, there is an element of failure across different agencies and so on. And the important thing is learning from it.
I just want to know, are you sorry? Is the council sorry for the way that it failed Nanita so catastrophically?
We're sorry for what happened. We do realise there have been some failures by different agencies, including the council. It shouldn't happen and we need to learn about that.
Do you think Barnet fulfilled its corporate parenting duties towards these three?
Each one is a tragedy. I mean, there might be times...
That's not what I asked.
No,
do you think that the council fulfilled its corporate parenting duties?
You can ask the question, but the answers are mine. Each one's a tragedy.
I'm just asking whether...
Do you think so fulfill?
Did you fulfill your corporate parenting duties to these 3 young people? It's a very simple question.
If they would be alive if we did. I have a special responsibility as leader of the council. Obviously, if you can turn the clock back, you wouldn't want this to happen. But if we don't learn the lessons, it's even more of a waste. It's a waste anyway. It's a waste of a young life.
It's been 2 years since Nanita's death, but the council has been criticised for keeping the details of her case to only a small group of councillors and senior officers. Should there be more scrutiny within the council?
Yes, I think that is possibly one of the lessons learned, certainly about better scrutiny and more intense scrutiny.
This looks like a council that doesn't want people poring over its failures. This is a council that is being accused of a culture of silence and cover-up. And it looks exactly like that. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. I don't even see how you can reach that conclusion. I honestly don't. We do need to look at what we did, what we could have done better, and taken more responsibility.
In the weeks leading up to her death, crucial support was taken from Nanita as she left care. She was completely in the dark about where she was going to live. She had no mental health support.
And
she was all alone in December, and she took her own life, and you were responsible for her care?
Yes, and it failed. And obviously, that is quite happy to say, I'm sorry it failed.
Anybody watching this, and specifically if they live in Barnet, how can they have confidence in this council's ability to look after vulnerable children when 3 vulnerable young people have died in a year? They must look at this council and go, there's a problem here.
And that's why, for me, learning the lessons is the real key.
We hear that a lot. We hear learning lessons a lot. Your opposition councillors, not surprisingly, say, well, you're the leader, you should resign. Do you see a reason to resign?
No, I see a reason to learn the lessons and ensure that we make sure we have a better system that includes councillors more often.
So three care leaver deaths in a year is not a reason to resign?
No, I see, but I am best placed to make sure that the right lessons are learned and we start making a bigger difference to young people's lives and give them the support we can.
Just a reminder, if you've been affected by any of the issues raised in that story, do contact the Samaritans. The number is 116 123, 116 123, or you can email jo@samaritans.org. Just a reminder as well, if you want to know more about the story, scan the QR code on your screen right now, where you can watch Nick Martin's full documentary about Nonita, a girl unseen. More details of that online. Let's bring up speed on some of the day's other news now. The Foreign Office says it's supporting the family of a British woman who is among 5 people found dead following a snowstorm in Chile. The bodies were discovered on Tuesday in a tourist region of the Torres del Paine National Park in southern Chile. Victims include the British woman, 2 Germans and 2 Mexican citizens. Global experts are warning that ultra-processed foods are leading cause of chronic disease pandemic linked to worsening diets. Writing in the Lancet Medical Journal, more than 40 scientists and researchers accuse food companies of putting profitability above all else. UPFs, like processed meats and cereals, often contain high levels of saturated fat, salt and sugar, as well as sweeteners and preservatives. Suicide prevention, alcohol abuse and problem gambling are the focus of a new strategy for men's health. The government's setting up plans for dealing with the physical and mental health challenges specifically facing men, as they're less likely to seek help than a woman. As part of the proposals, £3.6 million will be invested over the next 3 years in suicide prevention projects. A man has been charged with further offences following a stabbing spree on a high-speed train in Cambridgeshire earlier this month. 32-year-old Anthony Williams will appear at Peterborough Magistrates Court later this afternoon. Adele Robinson has more on the story. Adele, just tell us more about these additional charges.
Yeah, 7 further charges following on from the Huntington train stabbings on November the 1st, when multiple people were attacked on the Doncaster to London high-speed service. 32-year-old Anthony Williams, as you said, from Langford Road in Peterborough, will appear before Peterborough magistrates later today on those new charges. He is charged with further offences, including the attempted murder of a 14-year-old boy, a 22-year-old man, in separate incidents, and also grievous bodily harm of a 28-year-old man in the city as well. All of those the day before the train stabbings happened on October the 31st. The new charges are listed as follows: affray and possession of a bladed article in connection to an incident at Ritzy Barbers in Peterborough on the 31st of October, theft of knives from Asda Supermarket in Stevenage on the 31st of October, common assault of a 31-year-old man on board a train travelling between Hitchin and Biggleswade on the 31st of October, and attempted murder of a 14-year-old boy at Henry Penn Walk in Peterborough, attempted grievous bodily harm of a 28-year-old man at Vearson Platts in Peterborough, and attempted murder of a 22-year-old man near Pleasure Fair Meadow Road, also in the city, on the 31st of October. British Transport Police have been carrying out a wider investigation into Anthony Williams and also events leading up to the attack on that train service on November the 1st. Those offences are the new ones today, are also in addition to the charges that he's already facing in relation to the train stabbings, including 10 counts of attempted murder over that incident that led to 11 people being treated at hospital. We've heard from the Deputy Chief Constable of British Transport Police, who said in a statement that they described these charges as significant, and also said that they have been looking into the awful incident at Huntingdon, but focusing on other offences that have been previously reported to them. And they've also stressed the importance to the public of not saying or publishing anything that might jeopardise or prejudice ongoing investigations or proceedings.
Adele, good to have you with us, joining us from the newsroom there. Now then, you'll be well aware, cold temperatures have brought snow to southern England as weather warnings come into force across the UK. This was the view from Aylesbury and Buckinghamshire this morning. The Met Office said weather could create some particularly tricky travel conditions. Sprinkling also seen in Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire. A bit more of a sprinkling, that's not too bad actually, is it? Meanwhile, Scotland, there are yellow warnings for snow and ice in place until Thursday night. Similar warnings also in place for much of North East England and Yorkshire until tomorrow. Yellow warning for ice in effect across most of Wales too. This was the scene outside the Sky News studios a little earlier. Far less picturesque, but wintry nonetheless. You're watching Sky News Today. Still to come. Celebrations in Scotland as they progress to the World Cup for the first time since 1998.
A killing on a stag do on a Greek party island. Sky News investigates.
The sound that I heard will never leave me.
The two assailants walk off at first and then run off up the street.
The people are walking free for 6 years that have done this. That doesn't make any sense.
Whoever that person is, there's a big problem that night.
Even though police had a video showing them exactly what happened, we will reveal how they made the simplest of blunders. Is that you? Is that you?
Make this Christmas a jingle belter. From Aldi's well nice appetizers to their proper naughty desserts. And some right crackers in between. There's everything you need to make sure your table spread slays. Go all fancy with Aldi, specially selected.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
You want to talk business? Meet me in the On-Board Lounge.
Now then, Scotland have sealed their place at next year's World Cup, beating Denmark 4-2 at Hampden Park in Glasgow last night. The historic win means that for the first time since 1998, Scotland's men will be at the World Cup, winning in spectacular fashion, with the final 2 goals coming in stoppage time. Check out this remarkable report from Conor Gillis.
This is what a victory, a Scottish victory, looks like. A feeling that has been bottled for close to 3 decades. What do you make of that?
No Scotland, no fault there.
Are you going to be booking your flights to America?
I sincerely hope so. I sincerely hope so. Oh, it's amazing. It's just...
What does this rank in terms of life events?
Probably just below our marriage.
What's your verdict on that?
I can't argue with that.
The last time Scotland's men went to the World Cup was 1998. Most of these players were not even alive then. But now the wait for a rerun is finally over.
Oh my God, my heart was like all over the place. It took us through all sorts of emotions, but oh my God.
I'm 45 now. Never been to a World Cup, so here we go.
World Cup, so this will be my second.
For Scotland?
Yeah,
all right.
that's how you're into.
And are you going to go to America?
Well,
for a generation, hope has travelled hand in hand with heartbreak. But Scotland, right here at Hampden, have now rewritten the story. A victory for the nation and vindication for the squad.
Feels good. I said at the start of the campaign, I felt the pressure of the nation to try to get to World Cup. So immediately that falls off your shoulders and you feel a little bit better. But what a fantastic group of players. Never give up. I've said it for a long time now about how good they are and how determined they are to be good for their country. They showed that tonight. I couldn't be happier for my players. I couldn't be happier. It's fantastic. It feels great.
And so Scotland returned. Was the moment history country's favour. Conor Gillis, Sky News, at Hampden Park in Glasgow.
There'll be a few sore heads there this afternoon, won't there, I'm sure. Let's take you up to speed on the weather now. Wintry flavour to the weather over the next few days, despite inland areas seeing extensive clear skies and long sunny spells. For many parts of the country, though, temperatures down 10 degrees from this time last week, considerably below average for the time of year. These are the weather warnings. Widespread yellow warnings for snow and ice today. An early amber warning in place for the northeast tomorrow. For now, rain, sleet and snow will clear southeastern areas to leave a dry day for many with sunny skies. Temperatures only reaching 4 to 5 degrees Celsius. You're watching Sky News. Gareth Barlow with you. We're going to bring you all the details from the Commons in the next couple of moments. PMQs, all the details of Jane Seckett and the team from Westminster. All the details as well on the Politics Hub live blog. You can get it on your phone or tablet and the Sky News app.
If I could extract it from the pot, I'd happily serve it at a dinner party.